Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode here today. I'm so excited for what I'm about to talk about because this is something that is a specialty of mine, but also something that I'm extremely excited to educate and share with people on this specific topic. And that has to do with the thyroid. Now, I've talked about the thyroid before, and there's a lot of information and a lot of things to know about the thyroid. But today I'm specifically going to focus on things that your thyroid hates that we do or sometimes do on a daily basis that our thyroid doesn't like. And basically just means like these are things that don't support the function of the thyroid. But I'm not just going to do that. I'm then after that going to share, hey, what is it that the thyroid loves? What can you give it that it loves? And some of these things are going to be a surprise for you because these are just things that aren't necessarily common knowledge or things that are just taught in general when it comes to the thyroid. Now, I want to talk a little bit about thyroid ranges first. So, I run lab work for people, every single person that comes and works with me in my in depth coaching programs. Everybody gets lab work done. And we always check the thyroid because the thyroid is one of those things that is under tested for so many people. And also in the allopathic world, which means that's like your regular general doctor or endocrinologist, those types of doctors, not to talk bad about them, but unfortunately, the medical system has failed a lot of people because one of the things that happens a lot is they don't test enough ranges of the thyroid. So when you get your thyroid checked, you want to check TSH, free T4, free T3, reverse T3, TPO and TGAB antibodies to check for Hashimoto's autoimmune. And, up to 60% of people with hypothyroidism also have Hashimoto's, but up to 40% of those people don't ever get tested or diagnosed. And so it's really, really important to know that these are things that need to be tested. And I have so many people that come to me and they're like, well, I got my thyroid checked and they said everything was fine. But there's a couple of things that happen here. The first thing is they don't test enough. They may check only TSH or TSH and pre T4, but that's not enough. And then the ranges that they're looking at are crazy. So when you look at the ranges in a pathological field of like where they want to see a TSH, for example, it could be, hey, they want to see it from 1.0 to 5 something. Well, I would never want to see someone in a 5 for their TSH. When we look at those things from an optimal range, we're wanting to see that TSH anywhere from 1.0 to 2.0. Now, that's your thyroid stimulating hormone. And your free T4 is your inactive thyroid hormone, and their ranges are off as well. Your free T3 is your active thyroid hormone, which is a thyroid hormone that feeds your metabolism. So if you have low T3, you have a sluggish metabolism. And then the reverse T3 is also underrated because so many people don't get their reverse T3 tested. And it's not your fault. It's the fault of the doctor not doing that. And a lot of times doctors are like, well, it's not important. It is important because first of all, there's all of these markers are available. And second of all, they all matter. Okay. So the reverse T3 is the brake pedal. So let's say, your thyroid's pushing out too much free T3. The reverse T3 will come in, put the brake pedals on and say, hold up, slow down. That's enough. Now, if your reverse T3 is too high, which happens, then it can be putting those brakes on too much. And now all of a sudden you're slowing down your active thyroid hormone. And therefore now you have a sluggish metabolism, which is what happens when your free T3 is too low. So you need adequate amounts of free T4, which is your inactive, to convert into free T3, your active. If you don't have enough free T4 to convert into free T3, that's a problem. Now, let's say your reverse T3 is too high. You really don't want to see it anywhere higher than between a 10 and a 15. The pathological range is up to 25, way, way too high. Now, here are some things that will up your reverse T3. If you have a really high stress life, if you have high cortisol, which the high stress life and high cortisol go hand in hand, those things can bring your reverse T3 up. Okay. Now, also, if you're not exercising, you're not moving your body, you're eating a very poor diet, you're not getting enough protein, and you consume a lot of alcohol. Those are all things that can make your reverse T3 go up. And so you need to know these things. So I can't tell you how many times people come to me and they're like, well, I was told my thyroid is fine because I got tested. And then I go in and I look at it and I'm like, no, things are not fine. And that's why so many people are like, well, I'm told that my levels are fine, but I don't feel fine. I don't feel well. I have all these symptoms. And so some symptoms, I want to just share real quick some symptoms that are connected to hypothyroidism is, you're having extreme fatigue, you're having hair loss, like losing the outer parts of your eyebrows. You have really brittle nails and your nails won't grow. You have dandruff and like scaly skin on your head, which, you think like, oh, that's dandruff. Well, I remember at my worst part when I was subclinical hypothyroidism and I didn't even know it, I had the worst scaly skin on my head. Like it was like dry patches. I was postpartum and I thought it was just postpartum, but it turns out it was my thyroid. And it would itch and I would have to itch it, but then I would have to comb it and like get the dry flakes out. I started putting like emu oil on it, which would just help kind of like with the scabbiness and get it moisturized, but it didn't fix the problem. And it was not until I found out that I had hypothyroidism, went on medication to quickly get those numbers down because I was dangerously elevated with my TSH. And it wasn't until after that that it started to go away. So those are issues. Those are signs as well. If you have a lot of digestive issues, if you are constipated or you have a lot of bloating or you have a lot of food sensitivities, like that's a sign as well. And I had like nearly 100 different food sensitivities when I did a food sensitivity test back then. And I was like, how is this possible? Like I eat so healthy. I don't know how it's possible I have that many sensitivities, but I had such gut imbalances just from over the years of not knowing, even though I was eating healthy, in the general eye, but for me, it wasn't healthy because I was eating things that were constantly causing chronic inflammation and gut issues. And so the thing is your thyroid being off, that's not the root problem. Like your thyroid doesn't go off just because. The thyroid levels go wacko because there's other root issues that are going on. And the medication, like for me, it helped get those levels where they needed to go and quickly get them out of that subclinical range. But it didn't fix the problem, not the underlying root problem. And it's been years. Like I've been on medication, then I've been off medication and did fine. And then sometimes it would go crazy and I would like go back on it. I've been back on it. And at the moment I'm on a very, very small dose and it's helping. But now I'm watching my numbers, go a direction that I've never seen them go, which is when you're on thyroid medication, you have to monitor it very closely. And for me, my body is responding like really well to the medication. However, it's responding so well that it's nearly putting me into hyperthyroidism. So a symptom that comes with putting your medication, putting you into hyperthyroidism is anxiety and shortness of breath and heart beating like really fast. Like I was having those symptoms and I was like, where is this coming from? And all of a sudden, like I got my new lab results back and I'm like, oh, that's where it's coming from. Because I could feel it was a physical thing. Like, when you have anxiety, like I don't usually have anxiety, but this was different. Like I've experienced anxiety, but not like debilitating where I would have said like, oh, I have anxiety. I don't claim those things, but this was different. Like I could feel it like deep down in my gut. Like it was an imbalance in something and it was like I couldn't control it. And I was like, what? Like, this is crazy, but it made me dig deep into like the mental and emotional parts of it too. Because let me tell you something, depression and anxiety is a root of something else, emotional. And while there's imbalances in the body, if you're deficient in certain things or you're over in other things, those can create imbalances that then like stimulate your nervous system and create anxiety. But what I asked myself is like, what is anxiety teaching me? What are those emotions teaching me? And what am I supposed to learn from that? And so it really taught me a lot. And I realized that my thyroid is trying to teach me something. And so it's my job to find out what that is. So, anyway, I wanted to share that with you guys because those are things to really, really understand. And if you're someone that's in a place where you're like, well, I've had hypothyroidism for years and I'm on medication, but like I can't lose weight, my symptoms don't get better. Like I'm okay, but like I'm not where I want to be. And I really am not going in the direction I want to. I want you to know like things can be different. And I've helped so many people. So many of my clients have had such great results with us looking at their diet, looking at their vitamin and mineral deficiencies, looking to see whether or not they have parasites or food sensitivities or candida or heavy metals, like anything that they need to get detoxed from, because those are the things that can be a root issue of why your thyroid's acting up. And once we get those things organized and get their body into a good level, all of a sudden their thyroid numbers are amazing. And you're like, whoa, that's crazy. Like sometimes I'm still surprised because I'm like, it actually worked. I'll get into this other part of the thyroid a little bit later on down the road, but because that's the most important part of knowing about the thyroid is what I'm going to share a little bit later. So I want to talk about some things that the thyroid hates. Okay. No sleep. The thyroid does not love when you're not getting sleep, like rested sleep, 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And the reason for this is your sleep is your number one detoxer and your number one healer. So if you're not sleeping, your body can't detox and it cannot heal. And so it puts you in a more chronic fight or flight state, which will affect your thyroid very much so. And so if you want to help your thyroid, you need to get sleep. You need to get rest and you need to get sleep. And that goes with any kind of like healing for your body. But we're talking about the thyroid today. What else does the thyroid hate? The thyroid hates if you get up in the morning and you drink coffee and that's it. Like you don't eat any breakfast, you first drink coffee, and then, all of a sudden it's 2, 3, 4 hours later and you haven't eaten anything because coffee is an appetite suppressant. And now you're just running on the caffeine and maybe a little bit of the sugar and honey or milk or half and half or creamer, which by the way, if you are using a coffee mate creamer, you gotta stop. It is terrible for you. You wanna know what I put in my coffee? Grass milk, half and half. I do like 30 milliliters, which is only 2 tablespoons. I froth it up in my frother and I put that in my coffee with honey. That's it. And the fat that is in that half and half and the honey that helps stabilize the caffeine so you don't get that like caffeine spike and crash. You should never be drinking black coffee on an empty stomach. First of all, the acid is really, really hard on your stomach. Second of all, the spikes that you get from the caffeine, now, like if I drink black coffee, I mean, oh man, the jitters I get is crazy. But when I put my half and half and my honey in there, or sometimes I do my raw milk, I'm fine. Like it doesn't affect me. And so don't skip breakfast. You need to eat something before you have your coffee unless you're putting like the heavier things in your coffee. Like some people put some salt in there. Some people make like a bulletproof coffee. I used to do this years ago. I would do bulletproof. I just don't want to do it now. But it was butter and MCT oil and then a little bit of honey or something like that. And I would blend it and it's amazing. It really is amazing. But I'm just really hooked on my half and half and honey right now. Who knows? In a few months, I might switch it up, or in a year, I might be doing something different. We'll see. But with that being said, you need at least a minimum of 30 grams of protein in the morning to help your stabilization of your blood sugars. And you want your blood sugar stabilized to help your thyroid. So if you want to feed your metabolism and you want to support your thyroid, you need to eat a minimum of 30 grams of protein in the morning and do that before you drink your coffee if you're going to drink coffee. So don't be skipping meals and don't be skipping breakfast specifically, and don't be drinking that coffee on an empty stomach, because remember, that affects the cortisol too. Some people, it'll affect them more than others. And the cortisol, you remember what I talked about, the reverse T3, the cortisol is connected to the reverse T3. And so keep those things in mind. Okay, what else does the thyroid not like? The thyroid also doesn't like the chemicals and all the things that are in your nonstick cookware. So if you're using nonstick cookware, the Teflon stuff and the things that have all the terrible nonstick stuff on it, it is full of chemicals. And especially if you are using something that is scratched, that stuff is a disaster for your thyroid. I use cast iron pans and stainless steel pans. That's all I use. Stainless steel pans and cast iron pans. But what I will tell you is some people are like, oh, I still want like my nonstick. Caraway is a good one that I've heard. I haven't used them myself. I can only speak for the wellness community and what people have said and that they love it. From what I know, that's a safe one. I have them on my Amazon link. But if I were to go nonstick, that's what I would go with. Fluoride. Fluoride is not great for your thyroid. It's actually one of those things that will attack your thyroid. So if you're using fluoride toothpaste and there's fluoride in your water and you're not filtering your water, not great at all, whether it's city water or well water or whatever it is. So what I do is I switch to a different type. Not here's something that I want to make very clear here. I'm not sharing these things to like scare you guys. I'm sharing these things to educate you, and I'm gonna give you alternatives. So what are alternatives? Don't use your Sensodyne, don't use your Colgate, whatever the brands are now. It's been so long since I've used them. So this is something that I always ask people. Do you use Sensodyne? Yes. Why do you use Sensodyne? My teeth are sensitive. How long have you been using Sensodyne? Oh, for years. Are your teeth still sensitive? Yes, they are. Okay, why are they still sensitive? Doesn't Sensodyne promise that it will help with your sensitive teeth and eventually you shouldn't have sensitive teeth anymore? That's the goal, right? It's a whole marketing thing. Okay, so most of the time people are like, oh, I didn't think about that. You shouldn't have to use a product forever in order to like help you heal or prevent something. So I use Ricewell, and Ricewell is a mineral-based toothpaste company. It's so amazing. I've been using it for several years now, and I had sensitive teeth. And my dentist was like, and I couldn't even whiten my teeth because they were so sensitive. And she's like, well, when you whiten your teeth, you are stripping them of the minerals and things that are on your teeth. And so she's like, here, use this toothpaste because it's a mineral based toothpaste. And so when you whiten your teeth, you brush your teeth with it after, and it will remineralize your teeth. And you shouldn't have any sensitive teeth. Well, I just switched over to the whole thing and I haven't had sensitive teeth since. Not once. I use their toothpaste. My son uses their toothpaste. Use their mouthwash if I use mouthwash. And then they also have a non-fluoride floss because yes, there's fluoride in your floss as well. And so I'm gonna make sure that I have the links of all of these things that I'm referring to you guys in the show notes so you guys can go grab it because majority of the things you get a discount code with, like the Ricewell, you get 10% off when you use Lizzie 10. But it's really, really important. Like I had a gal a few years ago that I didn't even know. She was a client of mine, and I had talked about this toothpaste on social, and I didn't even know she was using it. And all of a sudden, a month later, she's like, "Yeah, I've been using Ricewell toothpaste products, and I thought that I had receding gum. I had an infection in my gums, and I thought I had cavities that I needed to get filled and fixed and everything." And the dentist had told her that she needs to. She goes and she decides to use this stuff. And a month or two later, she went back to the dentist and he looked at her teeth and he's like, you don't need any treatment. Her gums were fine. Her teeth were fine. She didn't even have the cavities anymore. I was blown away. So there's a specific type of nano mineral or something. I can't remember the name of it right now that's in it. And it's so powerful. I go to a more natural dentist here, and that's all they use there because we don't do fluoride, and they're just amazing. So I can't recommend that enough. Okay, the next thing that the thyroid does not like is toxic skincare products. Toxic skincare products, hair products, laundry detergents, air fresheners, all of those things that have a lot of like perfumes in them, phthalates, parabens, all of those things that are super toxic to the endocrine system. Your thyroid hates it. Like, have you ever like walked down the street or walked by someone and you smelled like really strong perfume, or You smell someone's air freshener and you're like, you instantly got a headache. If I go on an Uber ride, what is it with Uber people and wanting these really strong air fresheners in their car? Like, I get so sick. Gives me an instant headache. And it's not just about the thyroid, but once you're really clean and your body's not like exposed to those toxins all the time anymore, you become more sensitive to it. And it's not a bad thing. It's your body letting you know, hey, this is a toxin and it's not good for me. But back to the skincare and stuff for the body. So if you're putting on like really toxic skin products, your Dove and your Irish Spring, and you're a guy and you're using like Axe and all those, like, whatever the good smelling stuff is now. It does smell pretty good, but it's so toxic. These items are also responsible, like, they're such hormone disruptors. They're like one of the top hormone disruptors. And they've also done studies on men's products and how much they affect the men's endocrine system, and they are responsible for lowering testosterone in men. And if you're a man, you do not want your testosterone low. But the low testosterone crisis is crazy right now. Not just in men, in women too. Did you guys know that if a woman is in her alpha role like all the time, like what does it mean by alpha role? It's like you're taking care of everything, you're taking charge of everything, and you're in your masculine energy all the time. That will actually eventually lower your testosterone. Like, I literally had this conversation with a friend of mine who's a naturopath, and she's like, yeah, like the amount of low testosterone that we're seeing in women these days is literally due to the overuse of the masculine energy. So if you're a woman, you got to go into the feminine energy. What does feminine energy even mean? Like, I feel like those two terms are just being so overused right now, but they are important to understand. Feminine energy, and I also believe that masculine energy and being in your masculine all the time will eventually like translate over into the thyroid as well. But with that being said, back to the skin products before I get carried away on that. It's really important to use good skin products that do not affect your endocrine system, which is why I'm so passionate about, if you're watching the video, this is why I'm so passionate about the Miss Commando company that I'm the CEO and co-founder of, because it goes hand in hand with what I teach. We have men's products, women's products, and they are all non-toxic products. The goat milk soaps are to die for. I've used many natural products because sometimes natural products don't really work. You're like, this is mediocre. But they're like, man, these products work and they are amazing. And they are. And our soap bars, if you're really concerned about how long our soap bars last, and you're like, I don't know, 4 to 6 weeks. 4 to 6 weeks. And if you use a soap saver bag, it'll last even longer. You can use them in your shower. You can use them for hand washing at your sink. You can use them for shaving. And the other thing to know is when you're using a non-toxic product like that, it's also better for the environment, because if you really think about it, you're using all these toxins and you're taking a shower and washing your hands and stuff, and it's going down to the drain. That's going back into the environment, and it's, you know, intoxicating for the environment. It's not good. We're using all natural product. And so that's the difference. So we have the soaps and the lotions and the balms, and we have, all of our stuff is safe. You can use it for kiddos as well. So if you want to support your hormones, your thyroid, and your entire endocrine system and energy and all of that, you want to switch what kind of products you use and make sure that the products that you're using on your skin are not disrupting your entire endocrine system. And then hairspray and shampoos and stuff like that. I'm currently using this brand called Four Seasons. It used to be called No Nothing, and I think they switched to Four Seasons. They rebranded and everything, and I order it off of Amazon. You can find it on my Amazon link. But their shampoo and conditioner is great. Their hairspray is great because it doesn't have any scent in it. It works amazing. And so start switching those things. And when it comes to like laundry detergent, like, first of all, get rid of your air fresheners. They are so incredibly toxic. If you want to run something with essential oils in it. Run a little essential oil diffuser. That'll make it smell good and stuff, but you don't need anything else. laundry detergent, fabric softener, and fabric softener sheets are some of the most toxic things in the laundry industry. So, so toxic. Like you can use dryer balls and put some essential oils in your dryer balls. Molly Suts and Zoom, ZUM. Those are two different brands that I go back and forth on, and I love them. Zoom I like because they use essential oils to scent it and it smells really good. And I believe Molly Suts does use essential oils as well, but I usually use the unscented one when I'm using Molly Suts. But those are some of the switches that you want to make. And again, remember, this is education and take it one step at a time. But I would say if there's anything that you're going to switch on, start by switching the things that you put on your skin first. Okay. Because you do that every single day. You shower every day, hopefully, maybe every other day, and you put stuff on your skin every day. And that's where it should start. You should start with the things that go on your skin. Let's talk about the things that your thyroid needs and wants in order to feel good. Okay, we're going to go back to sleep. You obviously need lots of sleep. Make sure that you're getting plenty sleep each night. And if you're having trouble sleeping, come see me because that is one of my specialties is helping people sleep better than they have slept in 15 to 20 years. And they feel like a whole new person. A lot of times it has to do with certain deficiencies that are going on or a detox that they need to do to get rid of stuff that's not supposed to be in their body. And then just making sure that they are, eating a well-balanced meal that supports sleep as well. Water and hydration and putting a little bit of iodized sea salt into your water for your thyroid because you need iodine and selenium specifically. Let's talk about some food stuff, okay? Food that your body needs. A good grass-fed beef like steak, ground meat, whatever jug roast, like whatever kind of grass-fed, good quality grass-fed beef you want, that is so essential because you got iron, you got zinc, you got the B vitamins, you got fat soluble vitamin A. Like there's so many, not to mention protein, but so many benefits to the beef that, and these are all, vitamins and minerals that your thyroid needs. And not to mention heme iron. You can't get heme iron anywhere other than from meat. That's where heme iron comes from. You can get iron from plants, certain plants and some plants and stuff, but heme iron is the only way you can get that is through meat, and you need heme iron. Things like some seafood, so like salmon and sardines, like those are types of seafoods that are going to be, first of all, omega-3 fatty acids, some protein, and then you're also going to get your iodine from seafood. So you're going to get that in a natural food source. Eggs, really good high quality eggs, protein again, but then choline, B vitamins, selenium. There's lots of other nutrients in those as well. So getting your eggs in is really important. And then raw dairy or A1, A2 dairy is really, really good as well because you have your vitamin D, your calcium, your vitamin K, there's protein in there. And there's a lot of really good nutrients in raw milk or A1, A2. And so bringing that in to support your thyroid is really, really great. And then, of course, there's, other things like sweet potatoes. And some people do well with legumes, other people don't. One of the things to know about the thyroid is a lot of people with hypothyroidism don't do well with cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower. Like I can do a small amount of them, but in general, I can't do a whole lot of them. A lot of people also can't do a lot of raw vegetables unless it's a carrot. I eat lots of raw carrots because they're really good for the liver and help move bile along. Beta carotene, vitamin A. They're really good for estrogen detoxification. So that's about it for raw vegetables that I do. Everything else is usually cooked. And then you obviously want your berries for phytonutrients, your blueberries, your red cherries, raspberries, blackberries. All of those are really good for your phytonutrients and antioxidants to support your overall health, but also really good to support your thyroid. But let me talk, and that's like food-wise things. Like rest is really important. but so is exercise is important as well. So you got to find like a balance of, hey, I know I need to eat well. I know I need to rest and get my sleep, but I also need to move my body. Now, I'm going to talk about the last thing that I want to share here of what's really, really important with the thyroid, and that is by using your voice. The thyroid lives in your vocal cords, and what it does not like is when you suppress your voice. So, the way that I grew up is women were kind of just like shoved down. They were not allowed to really use their voice much at all. And so we learn how to shove things down, keep our emotions inside, not express ourselves, and live in a suppressed world. And I 100% believe that is part of what like led me to having a thyroid condition and then eventually, Hashimoto's autoimmune because that's connected. There is a decent amount of thyroid conditions in Amish women, 100%. Here, let me explain this here. So, because your thyroid is by your vocal cords, it's connected to your voice. A lot of people that have pretty aggressive hypothyroidism tend to lose their voice by the end of the day. I used to experience that before I knew I had anything going on with my thyroid. I would come to the end of the day and I'd be like, wow, I feel like I'm losing my voice here. And then after the fact, I like realized that it was actually due to my thyroid. And you can also have inflamed lymph glands that are connected to your thyroid. And if you do, like 60% or so of them, they're not harmful or cancerous or anything like that. But if you do have them, you should be checking them out and making sure that there is, nothing cancerous going on. It's always a good idea. If they don't hurt, they're usually not an issue. But for years, I would feel that I had like swollen nodes in my throat. And it wasn't until I like really figured out like inflammation triggers, what my body was needing and all of that, that they started to dissipate and go away. But back to like using your voice. So like if you don't use your voice, like you remember the body keeps score of things. And so let's say something happened when you were growing up and you were always just told to shut up. You were told to not say a thing or you were told no all the time. You learn how to keep things in, and you also learn or start believing that nobody's ever going to have your back, because if you do speak up you get in trouble, which is what would usually happen. We also were not allowed to let our emotions out. Like the way that I grew up, we were taught anger is a sin. You're not allowed to be angry. And anger is just a normal emotion. It's not the anger that's the problem, it's what you do with it. Okay? And so we were taught that if you get angry, you were a bad person. Eventually, it was like, okay, I'm not allowed to be angry. It was years, even after leaving. Like, I also didn't know how to have a constructive conversation in disagreement. So I didn't know how to argue in a constructive way because I never saw my parents argue. And I can't say that that's like a terrible thing, but also I didn't know that it was normal for people to also have disagreements or maybe have an argument. I still think like if you're a full on adult and you have a head on your shoulders, you shouldn't be arguing all the time. You should, understand each other or at least try to understand each other and have a constructive conversation. But that's what starts happening with the thyroid is the more you suppress your emotions down and you're a people pleaser and you bring on everybody else's problems onto your body, it will start affecting the thyroid. One of the things that has been substantial in me getting my thyroid levels to where I don't feel like the thyroid's controlling me anymore and I'm in control is by not suppressing my voice, by speaking up, by saying things that need to be said, by breaking those chains of suppression. Now, I've been gone for nearly 21 years and I'm still learning these things. Like, what does that even mean? And where do I need to break those chains and those strongholds that I developed when I was growing up? And that's a very, very common thing. So you need to know and understand these things. Like, am I suppressing myself? Am I just like holding things in? And then eventually you implode because you've held it in for so long that eventually you can't hold it in any longer. But let me tell you something, your body will feel it. And if you want your thyroid to start healing and not have to rely on medication for your thyroid, you need to start releasing the things that you're holding on to, and you need to start using your voice that God has given you. God didn't give you your voice to shut it down and not use it. And what I mean by this is because I feel like sometimes like people get it the wrong way where they're like, oh, I'm just gonna say whatever's on my mind and say anything. And no, that's not what that means. It means that you know who you are, you know your value, you know your worth, and you know what you're here on earth to do. And now you're going to go use those gifts and you're going to believe in yourself to do that. It doesn't mean be a terrible person and just be mean to other people because you agree differently than they do. I think that our world has become so opposites of like, hey, I believe in this and you believe in this. We can't be friends. We cannot have conversations because I hate you because I can't believe you believe this way. That is one of the most astonishing things for me in this world. And I don't know if it's because the way that I grew up and I know like what it's like living somewhere where your voice is suppressed and your opinions are suppressed and you were just told the entire time like what you should believe and what you should do. I had a conversation with someone in a group of friends and we were talking about a type of coaching business, but it had a name to it. It's like personal development stuff, but it had all these rules attached to it. And I was like, that's a cult. And they looked at me and they're like, what? And I was like, that's a cult. They're telling you what you need to do. They're telling you what you need to believe. And they're doing it in a tricky way. And they're telling you to go recruit other people to come in. That's a cult. And they're like, oh, I'm like, yeah, I want zero to do with that. And I do believe that because I grew up the way that I do and I have that experience, people that grow up in those things, if you're aware and you grow and become a better person or walk in your truth, you're going to see those things. Like I can smell a cult from 10 miles away just from hearing and seeing things. And so I think it's really important in this world that you have your voice, but you should also let other people have their voice. Because if you think that the way that you believe is the only way, then how boring would this world be? We're allowed to have different opinions, but still also be friends. I still value you. I have people that I know that I don't think the way that they do, but I still love them and I still respect them because they have a right to believe that if that's what they want. And so I think that we have to be really careful in this role, like, because everything's become so polarizing and polarity in things is important to understand. But what I want to kind of pull back in here is that if you're using your voice and you're making sure you're not suppressing the things that are in here and the gifts that you have, don't suppress your gifts. Don't keep them in. They're there. You're doing the people that need to know and hear and see your gifts. You're doing the people that need you a disservice by holding it in. But I want to make it very clear here. If you're walking in your gift and you're using your voice, first of all, you're going to be a much freer person and you're going to have peace because you're doing that. But second, you don't have to do those things in a disrespectful way if you're walking in your gift. So, if you want your thyroid to heal, use your voice. Don't suppress it. Let go of the things that you can't control and take care of the things that you can. All right, you guys? Hope you took some notes. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a review. I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning into the Lizzie Ens Show. If you're ready to take the next step to transforming your health and life, visit www.undietyou.com for all my resources and to book your consultation today. Don't forget to subscribe and join me each week for more tips, inspiration, and conversations with phenomenal guests to help you feel your best. See you guys next week.